Jordan Love practiced 2 days in a row. It looks like he could go on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. But is that the smart way to handle this for the Green Bay Packers?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and this show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Jordan Love practiced back-to-back days this week, and it wasn't just the Wednesday. Though, let's start there. If this were a charade, if last week had been a charade and just gamesmanship, then they could have just played this out. Jordan Love is spotted at practice on Wednesday, and then Thursday, he's doing some light running over on the side, and then Friday, he is in a helmet and shells and is limited in practice, questionable to start, downgraded on Saturday, Sunday can't go, and everyone says, well, he was close, but he just wasn't quite ready. And the Packers have every excuse. They have every excuse to say, look, he was really close, we thought, last week. And now, he got himself some work, and the knee was responding, and on Friday he was ready to, give it a go, but we just weren't comfortable with the amount of time he got. Didn't spend the whole week working through the game plan, and so he just couldn't be out there, and it's a Malik Willis week. I still think it's more likely than not we get a Malik Willis week, but Jordan Love practicing on Wednesday tells me that what we heard last week and coming into this week was right. That he might have been closer to playing. I don't think he was ever realistically going to play on Sunday. But clearly, he is progressing nicely in his rehab from this MCL injury, and that the timelines that were originally reported, the 4 to 6 weeks, Ian Rappaport has been the closest on this because he said 3 weeks. I think it ends up being 3 weeks. If you look at the look-ahead lines, the Packers still underdogs in Tennessee if Jordan Love were going to play. And when the lines opened before the season, before Jordan Love got hurt, the Packers were favorites in Tennessee. They're now 0-2 with 2 inglorious losses. Just incredible choke jobs by them because Will Levis cannot stop turning the ball over in truly sublime ways. But the Packers underdogs, 1.5-point underdogs on Sunday, but they are favorites at home in a week to the Minnesota Vikings, who are 2-0 and just beat the San Francisco 49ers. The only reason the Packers would be favorites at home to that team is because the odds makers, our friends at FanDuel, for example, believe Jordan Love is going to play next week. Now, the line has dropped. Is that because of money? Is that because of information? We don't know. But it's okay. Wednesday happens. But that's just step one. Okay, he practices. Does he get a day off after? How does the knee respond? This is an important touchstone in trying to get back. And so Thursday, he's out there in what appears to be a bulkier brace. And again, to me, if there was really no realistic chance Jordan Love was going to play on Sunday. The sleeve that had a little bit of extra padding in the knee that he wore Wednesday, and it looked like a hybrid to me, would have been enough. You could have practiced in it. You're not really risking that much in practice because there's not going to be contact and all those things. But on Thursday, there was the sleeve, and he wore sleeves on both legs. That seemed intentional too, but that's neither here nor there. But then wore the bulkier brace, the metal brace, the real brace, the I'm going to wear this one in the game brace. And I had a conversation with someone who specializes in these sorts of things, a medical doctor who specializes in, sports orthopedics. And they said there is an increased risk this week, and that next week, that risk decreases 10 to 15-ish%. Now, the Packers are going to have to decide if that delta is worth it. Can you beat the Tennessee Titans without Jordan Love? I think you can, and I said that yesterday. We spent most of our crossover Thursday with Tyler Rowland talking about why this is an advantageous matchup for the Green Bay Packers and why Malik Willis can still get some things done against this Tennessee defense. Now, whether or not that's true in practice, we'll see on Sunday if Malik Willis is in fact the starter. But that was before we saw him practice on Wednesday, and of course, before he practiced on Thursday in this knee brace. I actually don't, and it's not going to make for the best radio, but I don't have a strong take on whether or not he should play. Longtime listeners of this show, everydayers, know I don't like that word. Should. What? Should? I don't like it in general. I don't. And I certainly don't like it when we just don't have the information. If the risk is an extra 10 to 15% of re-injury for Jordan Love, and Elton Jenkins is going to play, and it looks like Elton Jenkins is going to play. He practiced yesterday, and Jaden Reed practiced yesterday. We'll talk about the injuries at the end. And Jordan Love says, I'm good, I can protect myself, then that's what you do. This is how NFL teams work. If your players are healthy enough to play, they play. And in some ways, I don't even know why this is a conversation. Why is this a discussion? If Jordan Love is cleared to play, then he's going to play. And the players who are cleared to play, you're only cleared if the premise originally from medical staff is they are not at an undue risk, to me, an undue risk of re-injury or future injury, whether it's the current injury or another type of injury, because we know that can happen too. You hurt one thing. Is this going to put you at a major risk for a different type of injury because this is not healed 100%? It is up to the medical staff to determine, is Jordan Love at an undue risk? An undue risk. That part of it is critical. Is it an unnecessary and reckless move to play him? If it's not, there is, I would say, just like a skosh, just like the teensiest bit of gray area where it's like, yes, can he play? Yes, sure. Is it optimal? No. Is he at additional risk from 100% healthy of re-injuring his knee? Yes. But could he go out there and play? Also, yes. But I don't know how you adjudicate that gray area, because there's risk anytime you go out there. There's risk to every quarterback, every player who steps foot on the field. They take on risk. And the idea that, okay, it's a 10 or 15% additional risk. Now that's off the baseline. but the baseline's not 0. So if the risk is 30% and you're 10 to 15% off 30, because it's not, you add like, okay, now they're 40, 45% more likely to get injured. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's 10 to 15% in addition to the 30% that it would, like, okay, here's a great example. Growing up, we used to go up to our cottage in Rhinelander. Shout out the Northwood, shout out the Hodags. And every morning when I was growing up, I'm old enough that we would turn on the radio. God bless. The radio. And they would say, right before we listened to Paul Harvey, good day, there's a 30% chance of rain. Every day in the summer, there would be a 30% chance of rain. Okay? You just knew anytime you went anywhere, there was a chance, a 30% chance it was going to rain. Let me tell you, if they came on one day and said there's a 40% chance it's going to rain, was I going to change my behavior in any way? Was I more likely to grab a raincoat or an umbrella? No. So if that's what we're talking about, if we're talking about, okay, in any NFL game, you have a 30% chance of getting injured, and Jordan Love has a 40 or 45% chance of being injured. Now, once you tip to 50, and once you tip that scale, like if it's more likely than not he's going to be hurt than not, no. So let's say it's 20%, and now it's 35% that he gets injured. Then he's going to play. And the should part is not even relevant, honestly, but like he's going to play, and that makes sense that he would play. If he's cleared, he's going to play. Is he going to get cleared? We don't know. Now, the question is, how are the Packers planning for all of this, and how does it change if Jordan Love is going to be out there? I would argue, and I did argue on The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, that it might not actually change that much. I'll tell you why next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. They're great partners of the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Packers. They are America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we've got something a little different for you now through September 22nd. So you are running out of time. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. This is especially something that I need people who are not in the local Wisconsin markets to listen up to, because if you want your Packers games, this is the way to get it. With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. I love my YouTube TV. I love my NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. You can also, as I have, bet on the Packers to cover. I guess you could just bet on the money line, 1.5. Like are they really going to lose 23-22? I suppose they could. You're probably getting juiced odds on the money line. Maybe just your best option there. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. So what changes with Jordan Love? And in order to answer that, we need to go back to what changes with Malik Willis. One of the things that I was surprised with in the last game was how infrequently the Packers played under center and what that meant for their under center play action game, which is a huge part of what this Matt LaFleur offense wants to be with what they were last year with Jordan Love. And getting him on the run, and they did it a little bit in the second half. In the first half, they didn't really have to do it that much. Now, Adam Stenavich talked about, and we heard from the coaching staff that, you know, this was part of the plan, that they had more passes in the plan, but they didn't really need them because they were leading and the running game was so effective. And I buy some of that. But in order to make this game plan work again, I mean, I think some of the triple option stuff, the single wing stuff, that's just really hard to prepare for. If you're a linebacker and you see two guards pulling across the formation and the Packers give that end around going the other way, like it is impossible, pert near, to play that as a linebacker with any sort of discipline. And it's not something you're used to seeing. And so showing those unique looks makes it really hard on the linebackers, but it also makes it really hard to play action off of those plays. You can't single wing play action if you're reverse pivoting and faking the handoff one way and then giving on an inside give, because you're letting that defensive tackle come up the field, and all you need to do if you're Josh Myers is wall him off. It becomes, in a way, a trap play. Well, you can't go play action if there's a defensive tackle in your lap. That becomes really problematic as a quarterback. I don't know if you guys know that. If there's a defensive tackle in your face almost by design, it's hard to throw the ball. That's just one of those truisms of life. So how do they evolve this run game so that they can play action off of it? They need to get to more shotgun play action, which is something that, we've seen the Bengals go to. We've seen the Rams go to. It is part of the plan in a lot of these Shanahan tree offenses with quarterbacks who like to live in the gun. Now, the clear difference in a plan that has Jordan Love versus Malik Willis is Jordan Love from the gun, you can call any pass in your playbook. Anything you want to do from any personnel, whatever you want to do, bang. That's obviously not true with Malik Willis. You just don't feel as comfortable with him. But given the lack of mobility or the mobility changes, Jordan Love admitted on the record, I'm just not as fast. I'm just not going to be as dynamic as a runner with the brace on. He said that. I'm going to take him at his word on that one. Okay, so does that mean some of the under center play action game, we're seeing this in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins cannot move well enough to give you a ton of under center play action. He can barely get to the mesh point on outside zone. So if you're Jordan Love and you can't move quite as well, I think he's athletic enough. He's not 36-year-old Kirk Cousins, where if he can't move 100%, he can't get to the outside zone mesh point. If he's 80%, I think he can do that. But then it's okay, well, the under center stuff, is that just out? Can you not get into those naked boots with Jordan Love because of his injury? And does that mean you need to be in the shotgun more because you're not going to go 5-step, 7-step with a quarterback who's dealing with a knee injury, and you don't want him close to the line of scrimmage where a defensive tackle could just slide in there and all of a sudden it's muddy in the interior and you've got bodies around Jordan Love's knee? You don't want any of that. That's scary. So what you do instead is you put him in the shotgun. Remember Aaron Rodgers in the pistol for that 2014 run when the calf is hurt. They played a lot in the shotgun in 2018 when Rodgers' knee was messed up. He's playing with the tibial plateau fracture all year. They didn't go under center play action but 12 times all year practically. I'm exaggerating a little. So, okay, you're going to live in the gun. You're going to have to adapt some shotgun play action. Not as much stuff on the run. Now, if Malik Willis is out there, you can use the quarterback run game, but that's only an early down thing. So on third down, you're still going to use a lot of the same stuff. The third downs that the Packers converted with Malik Willis through the air. I'm talking about spray outs, speed outs, 3rd and 6, bang, Romeo Doubs. 3rd and 5, Dontavian Wicks, out. And then every once in a while, you huck it deep, F it, Romeo Doubs down there somewhere. That's not that different from a Jordan Love game plan. Yes, on 2nd and 12, you can call some sort of drop back shotgun play passing concept that maybe you can't with Malik Willis. But on 2nd and 6, the menu's not that different. On 1st and 10, the menu's not going to be that different. On 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, yeah, it is. It is. 3rd and long, it's screen game, it's specials, it's tunnel screens, it's all kinds of gimmicky stuff. Whereas with Jordan Love, you can just drop back, have him pick out a target. You're still going to isolate a matchup. Okay, it's Josh Jacobs on a linebacker. It's Dontavian Wicks on a safety. It's those kinds of things. The plan is not that different. Now, if you believe some of the nuanced reporting from yesterday. It's, okay, well, in some of the mini team stuff and the 7-on-7s and the little individual drills that the media gets to watch, it's Malik Willis throwing the screen to Josh Jacobs, and it's Jordan Love throwing the screen to pick a backup running back. Although they really like this new backup running back that they just picked up, who we're going to see on Sunday. We're going to talk about that coming up in a second. I still think this is 50-50 with Jordan Love, but I don't know that the plan, especially on early downs, ends up looking that different depending on who the starter is. I think it's going to be pretty similar because of the ways that they were going to necessarily evolve last week's game plan this week. I wrote about this for The Leap. If you want more, go check it out. Injuries are a part of how we have to think about what's happening on Sunday. We'll talk about them to close out a Friday Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less than a stat projection on 2 to 6 players, and you get to pick the stats, and then you watch the winnings roll in. And in the month of September, 1 Caleb Williams passing yards gets you a win on PrizePicks every week. Every week. Caleb Williams has not exactly lit up the scoreboard. So that 1 yard, that's a pretty nice little deal here. That's right, only 1 yard and you get an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 weeks of free dubs. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. I'm not going to sing this time, but I'm thinking it. And you can win up to 100 times your money with PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's Locked On NFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win the $5 to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers your first listen every day. For your second listen, go listen to Locked On NFL with 2 shows now every day. First, the madman, Tyler Rowland, who you heard on the show this week. You heard him on the show last week. He's a blast. A double shot of NFL espresso. Then, stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. The Packers had a slew of what seemed like rest injuries over the course of the week. Guys like Kenny Clark and Elton Jenkins, who just played a lot of snaps. The Packers ran the ball 53 times. Someone like Elton Jenkins is going to need a little bit of a break. He comes back to practice limited. This feels like just massaging reps. I'm not worried about this. If he plays, I think we're to the point now where it's like if he plays, Jordan Love plays. If he doesn't, Jordan Love won't. I really think that's where we are. Jaden Reed had a shin injury. He had an injury late in the week last week, and it's like, okay, is he going to be 100%? He didn't have to be a huge part of the game plan. Jason Hirschhorn, our pal over at The Leap, America's guest, he wrote about how Jaden Reed, you might just build the whole plane out of Jaden Reed in a week like this. I think that's right. And I think that's right for a number of different reasons, but also Jaden Reed has to be healthy. He has to be healthy. When you look at this group, Chidobe Awuzie, one corner, L'Jarius Sneed, another corner. When Jaden Reed is out there, is Sneed going to travel into the slot with him, or is it going to be Roger McCreary in the slot? I like Jaden Reed in that matchup against someone like Roger McCreary. But if Sneed's going to play in the slot, then it's like, okay, how can you create a matchup on the outside? Who's going to be out there? Who's going to be the other boundary corner if they make L'Jarius Sneed travel with Jaden Reed? That's an interesting cat and mouse game to me. And then Jordan Morgan has not been able to do a lot in practice this week. I think this is Sean Ryan's job for the foreseeable future. And I wrote about this last week? No, this week. About finding a rotation that makes sense. I don't think against the Titans, it would have made a lot of sense to be rotating with Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat. Now you just have Sean Rhyan out there who's able to handle this. Now, he's going to have to handle Jeffrey Simmons after having to handle DeForest Buckner, after having to handle Jalen Carter. It's not like he's not hardened for this moment, but he was the only offensive lineman last week, I believe, who gave up a pressure, and he gave up 2. Now, DeForest Buckner is really good. You have to avoid those internal pressures. Now, is Denard Wilson, the new defensive coordinator, is he going to bring the pressure on early downs? Now, on 3rd and longs, probably 3rd and 8+, he's going to bring bodies. He's going to bring Ernest Jones and Kenneth Murray. Those guys are guys who trigger downhill. He's going to bring Arden. Now, Arden Key's probably not going to be on the field on 3rd and 8, but these inside linebackers are guys who were designed to blitz. Arden Key, Harold Landry, those guys are your edge guys. Arden Key's going to be out there on 3rd down. I misspoke. But this is a team where interior rush is key, is paramount. If Sean Rhyan is out there and healthy and playing well in the run game, I think that bodes well for the passing game. Not having Jordan Morgan to go to, though, Sean Rhyan has some issues. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. And then this Marshawn Lloyd bit, he's on IR. It's a bummer because he is someone who has shown some flashes. But I really like Chris Brooks. I went back and watched some of his tape. I talked to someone who follows what's happening in Miami closely. And they were like, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get more opportunities. He's a big back, but he's got some shiftiness. He cuts well. He's dynamic in the open field, and he will break tackles. And I think you have Josh Jacobs. He doesn't have the same sort of long speed juice that someone like Emmanuel Wilson or Marshawn Lloyd has. Chris Brooks is more in that Josh Jacobs mold, but I think he's got some dynamism to his game. So I like the backfield that they have currently. You'd rather have Marshawn Lloyd, but you'd also rather have Jordan Love 100% healthy, and that's just not the case right now for the Packers. So what are they supposed to do? You got to play the guys that you have. That's it. The question becomes, okay, what's happening at linebacker? If Edgerrin Cooper's going to get some more run, and we'll see. Jeff Hafley spoke in flowery terms once again about Quay Walker for reasons that bottle the mind. They're really happy with what's happening from Keyshawn Nixon, though Keyshawn Nixon hears the criticism on Twitter. I feel like I've been pretty tame this week, especially on Twitter about Keyshawn Nixon. I haven't said a lot about Keyshawn Nixon. But I do think it's weird that you're taking Javon Bullard off the field to play Evan Williams. I think that you should that just doesn't make sense. If you want to play Evan Williams, and then put up Javon Bullard in the slot. Or don't. Or take a linebacker off the field. Like if you love Quay Walker, take Isaiah McDuffie off the field and play Evan Williams and see what that looks like. You can keep Keyshawn Nixon on the field if you want, but don't take a good player off the field to play Evan Williams, who you also think is a good player. That just doesn't make sense to me. That's all. So we'll see. I still think the Packers win. I think whether it's Malik Willis or Jordan Love, I think the Packers win. All the public money on the Packers scares me a little, but that's just a heebie-jeebies thing. That's just a vibes thing. I like the matchup for the Packers. So I think they'll win. If they're 2-1 and then Jordan Love comes back and they can be 3-1 after the first month, bam, they are back in this thing. And you feel really good about their prospects. And Matt LaFleur is in the coach of the year mix and all that stuff. The Jordan Love MVP race, sorry if you bet that, probably out of the question if they win 2 games without him, but it could happen. All right, back on Sunday after the game, we'll be live on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast, Locked On Packers, Instagram, Locked On Packers, TikTok, Locked On Packers, YouTube, Locked On Packers, wherever you find podcasts, Locked On Packers, so you can stay Locked On Packers.